Spreis ich mir mit Kiche tritt. Hoi noch a Viertel zum Jahr Hoi mit dem Teister kling ich mir Und a Lieder sing ich mir Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai.
How lucky we are to live in the United States. This land allowed our forebears the opportunity to live their lives free of the oppression, poverty, and fear they faced every day in their native land. We can never fully appreciate the hardships they lived through. It is our responsibility, even at this late date, to remember their story and tell it to the next generation. If it weren't for the stubbornness of a young woman named Babis, the cousins in this room would never have been born, because our parents and grandparents would have been shot by the Nazis in 1941. How did we lucky cousins get to where we are now, here to Princeton, New Jersey? Let's retrace their steps back to Western Europe, from where they embarked with empty pockets but hearts full of hope. Back further to Eastern Europe, where the Jews were restricted by law to live in an area designated as the Pale of Settlement, a countryside dotted with small Jewish villages, or shtetls. We shall return to a town known as Ostrov, in what is now the Ukraine, formerly on the border of Poland and Tsarist Russia.
Und das Geld schon lang versäuft. Und was soll ich bring ich mir. Und a Lieder sing ich mir.
The population in Ostrov has remained around 14,000 through the years. Now, only a few Jews live there, but before the Holocaust, it was a vibrant commercial and religious center, and inhabited by almost 10,000 Jewish souls. Russians from Kiev founded the city in the 1100s. In the 14th century, it was passed to Polish princes. The Poles were Roman Catholic, while the Russians and Ukrainians were Orthodox Christians. This ethnic difference always played a role in the region's politics and conflicts. Walls surrounded the city. Fortifications protected the people from marauding Muslim Tartars. Jews first settled in the region in the early 15th century. Many came from Spain, escaping the Inquisition. Initially, the Polish princes welcomed the Jews and treated them well. Ostrog became a center of learning and commerce. In the 16th century, the great synagogue of Rabbi Samuel Eliezer ben Yehuda was constructed like a castle in the city center. Its shul was an inspiration for prayer. Ostrog was the most important center for Talmudic scholarship in the Polish-Lithuanian kingdom. But the synagogue was also used for defense, and it was connected to the city wall and fortification by tunnels. Jewish success helped the Poles expand their holdings, and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth encompassed most of what is now the Ukraine, including Kiev. In the mid-1600s, the Ukrainian Cossacks, who resented both the Poles and the Jews, revolted, and over 1,000 Jews were massacred. In spite of that, the Jewish population continued to grow. After the partition of Poland in 1793, Ostrog became part of the Russian Empire. Over the next century, Jews were involved in timber, cattle, and agriculture. A major railroad passed by the town in the early 20th century, and Ostrog fell on hard times. In 1921, after World War I ended, the province of Volhynia, along with the city of Ostrog, again became part of the Republic of Poland. The Russians were engaged in their great Bolshevik Civil War. Numerous pogroms broke out in the Ukraine against the Jews. Many, including our family, fled to America to escape from the violence and grinding poverty. Unfortunately, these pogroms were but a teeny glimpse of the catastrophe that soon followed. In 1939, Hitler and Stalin signed their infamous non-aggression treaty, and Ostrog was gobbled up by the Soviet Union. All Jewish organizations and independent activities were outlawed. The Germans invaded Poland in 1939 and then attacked the Soviet Union. Ostrog fell to the Nazis. On July 4th, 1941, the SS shot 3,000 elderly women and invalids. On September 1st, 2,500 men were executed in the Natinsky Forest. On October 15th, all of the remaining 3,000 Jews in Ostrog were killed. All that's left of the great synagogue of Rabbi Samuel Eliezer ben Yehuda are crumbling ruins. The roof was taken for firewood. The insides were gutted by the Nazis and scavenged by Ukrainian peasants. We cousins are related by virtue of two remarkable sisters, Anna Rosenbaum and Lena Feldstein. Their maiden name was Babis. Their story of hardship and courage explains how our parents escaped the Nazi killing fields of Ostrog. The two unknown cousins that appear in this picture with them were not so lucky. Our parents were too young to clearly remember those terrible years. Bubby Lena never talked to us about them. Fortunately, two oral histories are available. Anna's daughter, Ruth Shack, interviewed her mother on audio tape in 1987, the year before she died. Anna's son, Herman Rosenbaum, translated the tape from Yiddish to English. Around the same time, Lena's granddaughter, Rochelle Berman, made a home movie with Anna, her great-aunt, at Ruth's home. We shall use selections from both of these sources to tell our story.
Tell me the story. Go ahead. Tell me the
It's a big story.
Okay,
a long
let's hear.
story.
Well, let's hear some of the story.
All right, listen. I came here when I was a young girl.
But what year were you born?
In Osterreich, Berlin.
Austria, and that's in
Lithuania,
Poland.
Lithuania.
In Poland or Russia?
It's Poland. It was Russia. Then it was Poland.
It's on the
Right.
Russian
When I left,
border.
it was Russia.
It was Russia. And what
Yeah.
year?
1921.
No, but what year were you born?
That you
Well,
know.
I was born. So you'll know my age. Who's one who wanted to know my age?
What year?
I'm going to tell her when I was born. 1897.
Okay. Okay. 1897. Okay. So go ahead. So then you grew up in Russia,
In Russia.
and then you came here in 1921. But your father was here before. When did he come
My
here?
father came 1905.
1905. And what was his name?
Victor.
Victor Babis.
That's right.
Right? Okay. And then you
Did I visit one of the yellow
I'm the
Wait, who's telling the
narrator.
story here? It
Oh,
sounds
wait,
like Rochelle's telling the whole
Wait a minute. Then what was your mother's name?
Victor.
Rivka Ruchel. And I'm named after her, and
Right.
so is Ruthie.
And she was a lovely
Barbie.
Oh, darling, how I came
Yeah.
to America, it's a very, very long story, honey.
My name is Hannah Babis. I come from Ostro in the Ukraine. It was a little town with a lot of people, and they were very intelligent. One could spend time with one another. No one harmed anyone or robbed. I was born in my Zadie's house. I was the second child. My sister, Lecha, was also born in my Zadie's house. She was 6 years older. It was because my father had already gone to America. I lived with my Zadie from when I was born until I was 14 years old. There was my mother, my sister Lecha, and me. There were 2 other adult girls, Pearl and Rachel. Their house had 3 rooms, and in those 3 rooms lived 7 people. My grandfather was a good head of household. He worked at making barrels, and he made a living. He had a small factory in which there were about 6 workers. My Zadie was a learned and religious Jew. Every evening he read from the book of Psalms. His chanting of the Psalms was wonderful. I used to sleep near his chair, and I listened as he chanted. I used to say each word along with him and imagine that I could understand it all. My mother's name was Rivka Ruchel. Her maiden name was Ofter. My father's name was Victor Babis. He worked in my Zadie's barrel shop. My father went away in 1903 to escape the Russian-Japanese War. He too was a learned man. When he went to America, he worked at a shop that made sour pickles. He lived with his sister Pessy, who had come over a year before. I remember when I was young that my mother took me shopping with her to buy food for the family. It was midwinter. As she got ready to pay, there was a commotion. People were being beaten and killed. I asked my mom what was happening. Why were we running away? "It's a pogrom," she said. "They beat us and kill us, and we don't even know why." When we arrived home, my Zadie was anxious and relieved. That night he read from the Psalms with great piety and tears. I was 18 when World War I began. I went out to work. I went to the place where there were milliners. I learned to make hats. Usher Fiedler was my sweetheart. I saw news posters saying that war had broken out with Germany. In only a few days, all of the young men were taken to serve in the army. We endured a lot of misery during the war. We didn't hear from my father. Before that, he would send money. When I was 14, my mother and I moved in with my sister. By now, she was married. Leia had a beautiful brick house. Her husband, Moishe, sold fabrics and clothing. There was a nice living room, dining room, a large kitchen, even a corridor. There was also a garden. There were 7 years of war. World War I from 1914 to 1917, and then came the Russian Revolution. It was a catastrophe. People were frightened. All the different armies came, one after the other. They all searched homes. The Cossacks came and sang, "Kill the Jews and save Russia." Then the Bolsheviks came. They took away everybody's possessions. People's lives had no value under communism. We kept our doors and gates locked. When I went outside, there were dead bodies lying all around. The army mounted artillery on the hills and shot down into the town. A shell hit our roof and tore most of it off. People sought refuge in our cellar. A woman gave birth to a baby there. Then there was a great pogrom, and most of the town was burned down. There was terror. Lecha's husband, Moishe Feldstein, peace be unto him, had a stepmother and sisters in Anapolia. We went there. The Feldstein children were then only Vuvel, age 7, and Barucha, age 2. Gittel wasn't born yet. But we left my mother and my grandparents, and I was crying. What will happen to my mother? We proceeded to go toward Anapolia. Barucha fell out of the wagon. And afterwards, we encountered many different army factions. But we overcame all of this. In 1920, I was 24 years old. There was no work. Then God helped us. An American officer with the international forces fighting the Bolsheviks visited us. He was Jewish and originally from Poland. We invited the officer for tea, and the entire family gathered. Lecha, Moishe, me, my mother. I told him that my father was in America, but that we don't hear from him. The officer told me to write a letter to my father, and he would try to get it delivered. A few weeks later, I received a telegram from Warsaw that my father had sent tickets for passage by ship to America. But the tickets were only for me. He didn't include my boyfriend, Usher. There were no tickets for my mother, or for Lecha, or Moishe, and their 3 children, because by now Gittel had been born.
Your Bobby would never be here. She would be by Hitler.
By Hitler?
Yeah. I wouldn't go myself. I never was selfish. I would miss the children. I loved Bobby and Bernice. They were all my life.
So then tell us what happened. So then when you decided to come to
When I decided to come to this country, my father wanted to take me along.
But not your mother? He didn't want to take your mother?
No.
He didn't want your mother or your...
He didn't want my mother. He wanted only me. But then he was sick.
Sit down.
He was he knew that the Bobby was married.
Right, right.
So he wanted to take me along. And when I went to send me just for myself, I thought to myself, no, I can't do it. I have to send for everybody. And I sent him a letter that we're starving, that the war made us so poor, which it was true. It was very true in a way. And, we had the communists there, and the revolution was terrible. We went through a revolution, terrible. So, and I said to my father that we want to have tickets for everybody. So he sent that for Mama, for Grandma, for your Bobby, and for me, and for my mother, and for the 3 children.
I was sent to Warsaw to pick up the tickets. Our train was stopped on the border by soldiers, and we were taken off. People had things taken from them. I was scared because I had money sewn into my clothes. One of the men we were sitting with on the train had leather with him, which was illegal. We were arrested and taken off the train. We were taken to I don't know where in the freezing cold on an open wagon. There was a typhoid epidemic. Finally, I was able to get to Warsaw and get the tickets. It was a long time, but I finally got home. My mother began to hiccup terribly. This condition persisted when we were in America and even until she died.
Anna moved to Warsaw by herself initially to start the process that would allow the family to leave Ostrog. A businessman from Ostrog arranged for her to stay at a hotel. The Hebrew Immigration Society explained what paperwork was needed. She went everywhere on foot to obtain the documentation. Eventually, she was joined by the rest of the family. They lived in an overcrowded hotel with other immigrants under deplorable conditions. It took more than 2 years for the family to finally get their visas. The record of their subsequent journey is confusing. They left Warsaw carrying meager possessions with them. They attempted to board a boat in Belgium but were denied passage because of various illnesses. The family was sent to Paris to recover. While there, Anna took a job at a hat factory.
No, we had to wait in Warsaw. Your grandfather had something on his head when he was a child. Like a saw, I don't know. Yeah. So they shaved him, and you could see that so they stopped him. They didn't want to let him into the States, So he had to go to a doctor, so they put him twice on the quarantine. Twice. And your Bobby got sores all over her body. They didn't want to let her. 3 times they stopped us. And then we had to go through, we was in Belgium, and they stopped up from Belgium, we have to go to Paris. They stopped us 3 times with the children, just in front of the children. And don't ask what they had. They had chicken pox, they had measles, and they had whooping cough.
Finally, in early 1921, the family departed from Antwerp, Belgium. They came over on the Lapland, a 620-foot-long steamship with 4 engines that could carry up to 2,500 passengers. The journey took almost 4 weeks. On March 21st, 1921, the family arrived in New York. They were processed at Ellis Island. David Rosenbaum has obtained an original copy of the ship's manifest from the Ellis Island Foundation. The Foundation also provides legible print copies of the manifest and each person's certificate of arrival. Note the original spelling of the names. Processing could be chaotic and frightening for people who couldn't speak English. Immigrants from all over the world stood in line together. Everyone underwent a medical examination before they were released. Rivka Ruchel was detained because of trachoma, an eye infection. In Philadelphia, Victor Babis owned 2 small houses. His sister Pessie lived in one with her husband and 3 children. Victor lived in the other with another woman. Rivka, Anna, and the 5 Feldsteins crowded in with Aunt Pessie. The Feldstein children were notoriously active, and one can only imagine what their noisy and stressful life must have been like.
And where did you live when you came to...
My father.
Your father was in Philadelphia?
No, not with my father. Tante Pessie.
Who's Tante Pessie?
Tante Pessie was my father's sister.
Right.
And they came, my father bought 2 houses. Then before we came, 2-3 years before, for $400, two houses. I want you. For $400, $200 in each house he paid it from the bank. So the affidavit showed that he has 2 houses. That means he's a very rich man. So my tante was living in one house. The little houses in Daly Street. And a tenant was living in another house. It was one street after the other. Daly Street and Wolf Street. And both houses was rented, and we came in 7 people to Tante Pessie. And Tante Pessie alone was a poor woman, a poor family, and she had the 3 children, and her husband didn't work. And the children, they were spoiled children, poverty. And Gittler was a little girl. She was nursing her, 2 years old. She was still nursing her. And Pessie got nervous from that.
Enough to drive you nuts. Well, what happened with your marriage?
Well, I married later. I was single.
No, not you. They're married. Rivka Ruchel and Victor.
Don't ask.
We have a copy of Rivka Ruchel Babis's passenger record. She was a married woman. This is a copy of the 1920 census from Philadelphia. Victor Babis lived in the 39th Ward in South Philadelphia. He declared himself a single man. The United States is a nation of immigrants. Every ethnic group had their unique circumstances. Every family has their own treasured history. All our lives are the richer, and our country the greater for them. Rivka never lived with Victor in the United States. She arrived when she was 49 and died about 7 years later. Rivka Ruchel Ofter and Victor Babis were married in the old country. It was arranged by their parents. It was neither happy nor conventional. Victor left Rivka after Lena was born. He was afraid of being drafted for an unpopular and futile war. He did not provide regular support. After he briefly returned to Russia, Rivka became pregnant a second time with Anna. Victor arranged for visas and necessary documents out of love for his youngest child, Anna. Moish and Lena Feldstein financed the move by selling their prosperous business in Russia. Chana was an independent woman before her time who undertook a perilous journey in a hostile world. It can be difficult for those of us who live seemingly safe lives to comprehend the risks these people took in theirs. Our parents were neither saints nor sinners. They had doubts and dreams, loved and lusted, were selfish, committed mistakes, enjoyed success, and sacrificed. People, in other words, just like us. Copies of this video are available. It does not discuss the family's experiences in the United States. Cousin Ruth Shack has a unique perspective of the personal lives of her parents and has promised to share them with us today. She also has put a lot of work into our family tree and will make those copies available as well. This celebration would never have come to pass without her encouragement over the years. Herman Rosenbaum's wonderful translation of Anna's story, complete with historical notes and maps, is available online. Most of us do not recognize the people in these photographs because most of us have never met. We are the living legacy of Lena and Anna Babis. Let's honor their lives by celebrating who we are and how we fit into the family tree. Everyone here has stories to share. We are long overdue in having this reunion. I hope the children and teenagers in the room don't get too bored. Let's spend a wonderful weekend together.
Ongeton in alte Schrabes macht der Kebelkowitsch aber setzt. Dann die Litam setzt, ihr nicht die Litam setzt, die Litam setzt. Is Moshe Chaim umgekommen, am besten heilig zu gehen, immer Moshe Chaim, Baruch Schmiel, hab der Kitzel in der Stil setzt. Dann die Litam setzt, die Litam setzt, setzt. In das Mädel aber bloß sich ist, ich will nicht nur sie lassen. In Gitze Kischen ist am Moid, wenn sie Saal 16, wenn der Kisch dann alte Moid, hebt sie uns zu krächzen, setzt, tam dillitam, setzt, dillitam, setzt. Es ist am Machai, was besser kann es sein, ihr Vergnügen ist nur mit,